Thank you. I'm Ed Brown. It's probably most of you guys heard me speak in 2 years. But a little bit about my background. Grew up in a military family. My dad was in the Air Force. I spent 14 years in the Army between active duty and reserves. And pretty much grew up my whole life in the outdoors, camping, hiking, all that kind of stuff. And it's pretty much what my wife and I like to do in our spare time as well. But I see that a little short on time, so I'm going to get to it. Okay, first slide. 1906, Alfred Henry Lewis, he came out with a saying in Cosmopolitan magazine, said, "There are only 9 meals between mankind and anarchy." So this is going to play into a slide that's a couple slides from now. But it's pretty much saying that 9 meals, 3 days, water and food, people are going to start losing their mind. And they're going to start doing things that are pretty much off the moral compass to feed themselves, get water, and get supplies that they need. So this is the prepared mindset, and this is pretty much going to be the topics. Topics that we'll be covering is type of disasters we have, anywhere from Mother Nature to man-made. Mother Nature be like, we've had tornadoes twice this year already, and it's only March. And man-made would be something, EMP, nuclear, civil unrest, that kind of nature. So getting home is pretty much, are you prepared to get home from your work, from the grocery store, and all that stuff to your house without any trouble, either with the car or without a car? How are you going to get home? What's your plan? Do you have a map? Are you going to use your feet? And worst case scenario, do you have something to sustain you for at least 24 to 72 hours that when you make your way home? So definition, according to Wikipedia and pretty much everybody else, prepper is a person who believes a catastrophic disaster or emergency is likely to occur in the future and make active preparations for it, typically by stockpiling food and ammunition and other supplies. If you guys haven't noticed, I'm not a public speaker, so. This is the first time I've public speak in, 10 years, so. So that's the definition of a prepper. I'm gonna go over a couple things of what you should have in your car and what you should have on yourself as well, your EDC, everyday carry. It goes anywhere from if you don't carry a gun, carry a knife. If you don't carry a knife, just different things. And this is what pretty much, for even just basic survival, the rule of 3. I forgot to add one. The first one is 3 seconds. You'll last 3 seconds in a gunfight without a gun, or you'll last 3 seconds in a weapon fight without a weapon. 3 minutes without air. 3 hours without shelter, inclement weather, say it's snowing, there's a blizzard. You're only going to last about 3 hours before that's it. 3 days without water. Once those 3 days hit, you're either going to die of dehydration or your body's going to start to shut down. And 3 weeks without food. And types of disaster, we got the natural disasters. I don't think we have any earthquakes around here, I'm not sure, but tornado. And the one I'm most worried about is civil unrest. Because something bad happens, the grid shuts down, power goes down. That means water treatment goes down, and people are going to start looking for places to get those supplies. And it'd probably be better to have it on you or in your vehicle, that way you can get home and not have to worry about it. And pretty much this is a little guideline for prepping. A lot of people do short term, 72 hours up to a week. They have 72 hours to a week's worth of food. And long term, 3 weeks up to 6 months. It's kind of like setting a goal. You want to start off with having enough food for 3 days, and then you want to work your way up to a week, then 2 weeks, and you just want to keep on going until you have enough to sustain you for a while. At the end of this, I'll show you guys a website that shows pretty much you could put in how many people are in your family, and it'll show you how much wheat, grain, and beans and all that stuff that you need for that period of time. And it's kind of surprising too, because it's a lot of food. So now is the time for prepping. Think about your situation. I mean, everybody preps differently. If you're gonna prep for natural disaster, grid down, nuclear war, I mean, every prepping is a little different, but it's pretty much, they all have the same key element, and I'll show you that coming up. But there are certain different ways to prep. Single, if you're a single person, a lot of people who are introverts and all that stuff prep by themselves, so they rely on themselves. You got a family, you're gonna prep as a family, that way your family's taken care of. And then, I think what we're gonna try to do here is community, where everybody kind of chips in and pretty much everybody has a skill that they can bring to the table and they can combine so everybody knows, everybody has the knowledge and everybody can learn from each other. So, the biggest thing I can tell you to do is research nonstop, because you'll find conflicting information everywhere. One website will be like, oh, you should do this, and the other one's like, don't do this, you do this instead. I can tell you the best thing to do is, I think it's only $20. This book, The Prepper's Blueprint, will lay out everything for you, from get home, bug in, bug out, water purification, medical, everything. It's pretty much the book that I go by. I do a little research online here and there, but I actually go by that book, but it has a lot to say. Lay out your plan for prepping. Don't just say, okay, we're gonna do this, but do kind of like baby steps. Start with a little bit of food here and there. I mean, you buy stuff, you put it in the pantry, you know it's gonna last for a while. Eventually, you get some Mylar bags and buckets, and then you start sealing them up and start putting them away. A little bit here and there. The worst thing you can do is panic prep. As you can tell by the toilet paper scare of 2020, where everybody just went out and they just spent all their money to buy stuff. And that brings up another point. Has anybody ever seen that Nat Geo Doomsday Prepper show? That guy. Brad has. Okay, if you ever watch that show, you can watch all the episodes on YouTube. It will tell you exactly how not to be a prepper. You look at everything they do, and you're just like, that's just horrible. I would never do that. Why would you do that? I mean, there was one guy that's actually, he was on a show from Miamisburg. He owned a furniture store. And he actually spent all the money he had, his savings, his 401k, and everything his store made into prepping. And he left his wife to pay all the bills from her job. That's a horrible way to go. I mean, another situation is like, we'll get into it later, but when we get into food and all that stuff, I mean, community prepping and all that stuff, you got to think about kind of people you want in your community with their brain, because something happens, the further you go on, more people are going to come to your community and all that stuff. You got to be careful who you let in. And I mean, just watch the show. It's a good laugh. It's a good laugh. Doomsday Preppers. It was a TV show that was on for, I think it was like 3 or 4 seasons, and it was, yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was bad. They even had, I mean, I understand a lot of people, some people don't like guns and violence and all that stuff, but they had a whole community that said, we're not-violent, we're just gonna accept everybody in the community. And they were asked a question of like, what are going to happen when they come and rob you? Oh, we hope that they'll have an understanding that they won't rob us. I was like, yeah, we're going to take your resources right there. Those belong to us. But a lot of people think prepping, they think, you're a tinfoil hat wearing and all that stuff. The biggest thing besides panic prepping and all that stuff, you can talk about prepping with people, exchange ideas and everything. But don't tell them how much stuff you have or where it's located. That's a bad idea, because their supply runs out. They know that you have X, Y, and Z amount of supplies and where they're heading and all that stuff. They're going to go for your stash. I mean, like I said, the moral compass is going to be out the window. I mean, it's going to be every which way. So just be careful when you prep and all that stuff, and have a good plan to kind of keep it hidden away from everybody. These are the common to everything, basically. Natural disaster, human-caused disasters, and for every part of this presentation. Basically from getting home, bug out and bugging in, we'll get to that. Basically EMP attacks and nuclear disaster, they all have these in common. I mean, it's pretty much what you're gonna need for survival between food, medical, energy, water, hygiene, and security. And then, like I said, you gotta decide which way you wanna prep. You wanna do it alone, family, and community. Choose which one. I mean, I choose all three. I prep by myself. I do a lot of stuff myself, but I also prep a lot for us and our dog. And also, I've been looking for a community for a while that actually do more prepping with more people and all that stuff to share ideas with. So, when you're alone, there's pros and cons. I mean, every situation is gonna have pros and cons. So, I mean, so you can only prep so much by yourself. You're gonna have less food, less water, and once it runs out, you're gonna run into a whole bunch of other issues. And we'll get to that second, but if you have to bug out, you're by yourself. You carry what's on your back. You ain't gotta worry about nobody's gonna slow you down whatsoever. You can get to your destination point at basically your discretion. But you ain't gotta worry about fighting for power if you're in a community as well. You ain't gotta worry about gossiping and all that stuff because you're by yourself. But the biggest drawback, besides not having a volleyball named Wilson, is you're alone. Less food means eventually you're gonna either have to join a community, scavenge, or remedy that. And after everything happens, I mean, if you're gonna try to homestead, that's gonna be hard for you to wake up every day, tend to the crops, make sure everything on your property is in tip-top shape. But at the same time, then you gotta worry about security. You're by yourself, you've been working all day. It's gonna be hard to pull security by yourself and watch your property when you're sleeping. So, factors like that, medical. If you know how to render yourself first aid, if you ever take if you're in the military, took a combat lifesaver course, it teaches how to do individual first aid on yourself. Something worse happens, I mean, you're kind of out of luck if you're by yourself. I mean, you're not gonna be able to fix yourself up. So with the family pros, I mean, I can't really think of a con for families. I mean, you got kids. If you have to bug out, you make them carry all the gear. I mean, right there, you ain't got to worry about it. But yeah, added security. I mean, it's pretty much more and more. There's more and more pros and cons, more pros than cons when you go up from being alone to family. Then you have more. But I mean, cons, you got to worry about kids getting sick, somebody getting hurt, and all that stuff, and you have to remedy that situation. You got to carry them, you got to treat them, or do you have to stay in that location until they get better? Community. The biggest thing is, I mean, figure out how you want to structure daily jobs for people, who gets what, who's in charge of what. I mean, that's something that, I mean, as a community, you would have to build on and lay down laws and rules and all that stuff and figure out how you guys are going to run it. Like I said, I've never been part of a prepper community, so I wouldn't know. So I would be starting out as well with the community, so be something good. Now, everyday carry. And if you guys haven't known, this is just very, very lightly skimming the top of everything, because each of these sections you could spend hours and hours and hours talking on. So I'm just trying to skim everything in 2 hours. But at a later day, we'll go into each thing a little bit more. Everyday carry, basically what do you carry on you? What do you have in your vehicle? I mean, me personally, every day, I carry concealed carry. I also carry a knife. I also carry a flashlight with me. And most of the times, I will carry either a fanny pack. It depends on what I'm doing. A fanny pack, I'll carry a shoulder bag that I can sling in front, like the one on the end over here. Or if we're out hiking and all that stuff and I already have a backpack, I wear a chest pack just for an extra, so it's basically readily available. I mean, it's all up to you what you want to carry. Like, most of the stuff is what I do. I mean, you're gonna have to tailor everything to your liking and what you want to do. So, how prepared are you? Like I said, what are the things you carry on yourself for protection? Carry a taser, pepper spray. If you carry pepper spray, I would probably actually go with the pepper gel and make sure it's a UV pepper gel so they can actually trace that perp back to you. Pepper gel, it's instead of pepper spray, because pepper spray a lot of times will come out in a fog. Pepper gel will come out in a straight line, a longer shot, and a lot of times it's has a UV dye in it. So say you had to use it on somebody and they actually go look for that suspect, they can use UV light and it'll show up that they were hit. There's also one called the Hulk, and I forget who makes it, but when you spray it out, it's a gel, but it turns green. And it's not washable, so they'll be green. Keep on trying to find that one. But what do you do in emergencies when your car breaks down? I mean, most of us, like some of us have AAA, call a friend and all that stuff. But I mean, do you have stuff in your car that you can use to fix your car if you need it? Like, do you have jumper cables? Do you have a battery pack to jump it if you have a dead battery? Fix a flat or tire slime in case you have a flat tire and you have to plug it. You know, things of that nature you should always have in your car, especially with tools. I mean, at the bare minimum, I carry a wrench, a crescent wrench, and a couple screwdrivers, just in case I need to fix anything. But nowadays, everything is computerized on the car, so I'd probably just walk away from my car and forget about it because I ain't fixing it. But then you also got to think about if the car breaks down and you have to get home, do you have a bag or anything that you can take with you that you can use to survive that trip home? And that's the biggest thing. I mean, like, our bags over there, I mean, I have a small red bag, which is my hiking bag, which is pretty much my get home bag, and I take it everywhere I go. Even when we go hiking, I wear it. The monstrous bag on the very end, that is my wife's 3-day get home bag. That'd be somewhere like we live in Huber. If I got stranded like down in Caesars Creek and I had to make it home, that'd be the size of the bag I'd want to take. That way it's sustain me. But if there are years of provision, I mean, does anybody here backpack? Okay, overnight backpacking. So I mean, you pretty much got a leg up on a lot of gear right there, because you go overnight backpacking, you already have a lot of the stuff. I mean, it's up to you if you want to carry a bigger bag, smaller bag, things like that. So, this is pretty much when I give you guys the handouts at the end of class. It'll give you pretty much like a generic list of your get home bag, bug out, medical, and all that stuff. It'll give you a bunch of information that you can actually try to, almost like a checklist that you can go through and kind of mark off the things that you want and the things you don't want. I mean, water purification, food, equipment, and all that stuff. I mean, me personally, I couldn't find it. I think I put it somewhere in the house. We usually carry around because of backpack, we carry around small Sawyer filters, the Sawyer minis. They fit on these bottles, but you could also make them inline into your Camelback as well if you cut the line. But they're pretty good. Well, I got a whole section on water, so we'll get to those when we get there. But we carry those. I also carry that looks like a thermos. It's called a Grail. That's pretty much rated for overseas as well, because it actually, most filters will remove like microorganisms, giardia, and all that stuff. That one does all that, but it also removes viruses as well. So it's rated for overseas. They also have another one that's a hand pump called a Catadyne, but you really don't want that one because it's $400. and it'll probably break after like 5 uses. I'm just saying. But so the biggest thing is like I work in downtown Dayton, so I ain't gotta worry about too many woods and all stuff when I get home. My wife works 2 miles away from I work, so I got a little map and I'll show you guys what we do, kind of a plan. Now the biggest thing is urban and rural. The biggest thing is you kind of want to blend in when you're thinking about a get-home bag. That big army bag, if something would happen in, say, downtown Dayton, and I pop that out and I put it on my back, I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to get mugged and robbed in like the first 30 minutes of civil unrest because they see a humongous military backpack. They're like, oh, he's got a lot of gear in there. It's going to happen. So I would go with something not noticeable, a hiking backpack, a school backpack, use as a get-home bag because it kind of blends in. You'll blend in with the crowds. You won't draw as much as attention as if you're wearing a tactical Molly backpack. So it's something to think about. This is what the gray man is. The ability to fit or blend into your surroundings and not drawing attention to yourself. Things go wrong, wearing tactical gear, bags, even when you display your vehicle can become a threat. So if I'm doing gray man, it's like her car has my veteran's license plate on it. But if you look at my car has no markings whatsoever on it. I don't display any U.S. military stickers, no 2A stickers, don't tread on me flags or nothing like that. So we kind of use it because it's a bigger car, so we're going to use that as pretty much our get-home vehicle if we have to, because it's kind of blends in with everything else. It doesn't stick out. So, I mean, the gray man would be the best way to go if you're in an urban environment. I mean, I can go into so far depth into this, but backpack, the way you dress and everything in urban environments, basically blend in. I mean, pay attention to like the demographics and all that stuff, all the people around you, see how they're acting, how they're walking, the way they're walking, all that stuff. Try to blend in as much as possible. If you're in an urban environment, you don't want to be this guy. You don't want to be what we like to call a mall ninja. He's a guy who's never been in the military whatsoever, but he's got like $10,000 worth of gear on him. Urban environment, you don't want to pop all this gear on and start walking down the street. You're going to draw attention. People are going to think you're police, military, and all that stuff, and you're going to draw unwanted attention. Because at that point, getting home is just that. You just want to get home. You want to draw the least amount of attention to yourself. So don't be that guy. Even in rural, don't be that guy. Just don't. No, that's just a bad idea. And simple things like in your car, keep an extra pair of shoes. Like myself, I work at steel tools all day. If I had to get home, I'm not going to wear those steel tools. I'm not going to get very far because by the end of the workday, I'm barely walking as it is. So I usually keep my hiking boots or a pair of tennis shoes. It all depends on the terrain you're going to end up going through. You got the Crocs. But see right there, you put that backwards. That's a sport mode. That makes you go faster right there. That's why they're on there, and they're tactical too. I mean, they're camo. But carry an extra pair of shoes with you. Just think about the terrain. I mean, off-beaten path on your way home. Are you gonna have to go through woods? Is there creeks? Is there a lake? I mean, I'm pretty sure you don't want to be wearing slides and then realize you have to, traverse through a river or a stream. So we always carry a pair of hiking boots with us, or old combat boots, or even tennis shoes. I mean, it's whatever fits your lifestyle and you're comfortable with. Clothing, I mean, it's pretty much self-explanatory. Pay attention to weather. If it's summertime in Ohio, I'm not going to wear a -0 parka or have one in my car or carry it with me when I leave. Dress for the weather. If you do decide to do a get-home bag, repack it for the seasons. Pack it for the spring, and then when it hits summertime, you got to realize you're not going to need that heavy puffy jacket. Replace it with like a hoodie or something, or a quarter zip, and then you'll have that for the summer, and then realize towards the fall, it's going to get cold again. Maybe I'll put the puffy jacket back in. And then wintertime, hopefully when you get in your car, you're wearing a jacket from your house. So, I mean, you'll have that jacket plus another layer. So, socks. If you've ever been in the military, you know about socks. Socks are very important. I always keep an extra pair or extra 2 pairs because socks get wet, and then your feet start to deteriorate after a while in wet socks. I would go with merino wool socks or hiking socks. A lot of stuff we go with is wool for the sole fact that when it gets wet, it still keeps its R value, still keeps its rated temperature, so you can still stay warm no matter what, even if it's soaking wet. Wool will do that. So that's what we have in our bags, and that's what we have in our house. I mean, pretty much all of our socks are wool now. I mean, rain gear, poncho gear. I mean, dealer's choice. You want a rain jacket, you want a rain suit like frog togs, wear that. Us personally, we like ponchos for several reasons. A poncho you can throw over yourself and your bag, keep your bag dry when you're going through the rain. 2, you can make a shelter out of it. At a later time, we'll go through that. You can do something which is called a ranger diamond. If you're in the forest, it'll keep you low to the ground, and it'll keep you and all your stuff dry, but just using a poncho. So you wouldn't have to bring a tarp, you wouldn't have to bring a rain fly and all that stuff if you just had a poncho. And a whoopee. Whoopee is the poncho liner. I never go anywhere without that. Navigation. This is a big thing for me because not a lot of people nowadays know how to read a map. Huh? I can't hear you. What? No. I could do that. I could get you guys lost in like less than 5 minutes. I promise. All right, navigation. I mean, there's so many different types of maps. That's a Sunto compass. It's really highly recommended for certain reasons, a lot of reasons, compared to a military lensatic compass. So I have an example of the SOL one here. And I also have a military lensatic compass. You could use both. Both will get you to your destination. It's just how accurate do you want to get to your destination? Do you want to walk straight to your destination, or do you want to be half a mile to your other destination? It's up to you as long as you know where you're going. So, topographic map. I love these. A lot of these images are blurry. I'm sorry about that. I was using Google Slides and it was very horrible to use. Very, very bad. But it's a topographic map, so it's going to show me all the land terrain features that I need to know. And I have one for us, to our house, to my parents' house, and of this area. So I know where the high points, the valleys, the ridges, all that stuff is. So I'm able to make myself a path where I'm not walking up a hill or a mountain and down the other side. I can kind of, basically the path of least resistance for me. You got your atlas, you got your road map, like a road atlas. Tells you where all the major intersections are. I mean, all these maps combined are good, especially nowadays. The best thing about Google, satellite maps. So this is, taqueria. All right, so I don't know if you can see the laser. See where the troll pub is? Down here? Oh. Right there. I work in this beautiful building right here. And my wife works in this area over here. So knowing we both we work in an urban environment, we live in the suburbs, we've talked about, we know a route that we're going to take. Because getting home, if we have to, if the cars aren't working, We know exactly which route we're going to go because you want to get off the main road as soon as possible, no matter what you're doing when you're getting home or you're leaving. Because the road's going to be backed up, the hospitals are going to be backed up, pretty much everything's going to be backed up, and you want to get out of that situation as much as possible. Like for us, we're going to take the river. There's a path that actually leads all the way to the Huber Heights. And I mean, that's the easiest path for us. It's going to drop us way below our house, but then from there, it's going to be easy to get home. That's why we always have a plan to get home. Because my first duty of business is going to get to her, make sure she's okay, then take her home. And then that little house at the top is where we live. So that river, we'd follow that river all the way through and come up through the farmland where we know there's a lot of rural farms, there's not a lot of housing and all that stuff, so we ain't got to worry about a lot of people. Basically, I mean, we're still okay. The biggest thing is you got to figure out a path when you're looking at a map, or you got to decide on your route home. Car-wise, I mean, I'm planning for cars not to be working. So pretty much nuclear, EMP, or traffic jam, or human and all stuff where we can't get, our cars aren't going anywhere. We're going to have to go on foot. So basically, that's what we plan for in our routes and all that stuff. This is getting into your land navigation right here. Not all norths are created equal. You got map north. When you're looking at a map, you got the grid lines up, going up and down. That's north. Then you got magnetic north, which is pretty much where the North Pole is. And then hopefully, a lot of people don't know this, it's not a straight line from where you are. It's not like a map whatsoever. And then you got grid north as well on maps. Magnetic north is pretty much on your compass. When you look through your compass, you're going to see where the arrow points north. You're going to follow that. That's magnetic north. It's pulling towards the poles. True north is the North Pole. And pretty much this is what true north looks. This is where your true north actually looks like throughout the world. This is all United States. This comes into play when you're using not a military compass, but when you're using a survival compass. There's actually a key on it for declination. Basically, it takes the compass and it varies for that swoop that you go to the North Pole. It will put you a more accurate northern point than a lensatic compass. A lensatic will be like, it's just north that way. And the survival compass will be like north that way, and there's your point right there. So they want me to do a class on that? I can do a class on that. That's fine. The biggest thing, I know a lot of people ask me about communications. So I know I didn't have an issue, but I know a lot of people had issues with cell service, internet going down, having no reception whatsoever, and then you got to worry about even more if it happens. Communications is going to be a big issue and problem. There's ways to remedy that, but I mean, it all depends on the situation. If there's an EMP, riot, nuclear, I mean, it all depends how you're going to use that communication, or if it's even self-functioning. EMP? Electromagnetic pulse. I got a whole section on that. I even got a nice, scary nuclear map that I don't know if a lot of people want to see. Okay. It's a war simulation on the United States. FRS radios, family radio services. Everybody has walkie-talkies. You buy them, cheap ones. We use the talk about Motorola's for a couple of reasons. They're an upgraded version of a walkie-talkie. You can get the NOAA weather on them instantly and alerts. And they also have, if you ever bought a walkie-talkie and somebody in your neighborhood had a walkie-talkie and you guys cross channels and you can hear what they're saying, this actually eliminates that. You could actually program your frequency, and then you can put a security frequency so that only you and that other person will have that frequency together. We have those right now, but we're slowly upgrading to GMRS radios. For right now, General Mobile Radio Services. This is like one step below a ham radio. Ham radio's ultimate goal is that, I mean, if you want to actually get communication that reach a broad range of people and longer distance, ham radio would be the way. GMRS is General Mobile Radio Services. It's used in overland. Or it's also used in, say, like things like base camps and all that stuff. If you're climbing Mount Everest, they're going to be using GMRS radios. Reach a longer distance, especially if there's repeaters in your area, extra antennas. So, like these Bofangs right here, we actually have those. Those are arriving at our house today. But these actually have built-in repeaters. So basically what that means is I'm a certain distance away and somebody talks, they can bounce off my signal and keep on going further and further. They can reach people farther and farther. The more repeaters you have, the farther you're going to reach. I mean, it's kind of like if you comms, like in the military, you always had a retrans site. So basically it's an extra antenna between point A and point B, so that signal is extended and it'll reach that destination without any issues. These are good radios. These Bofangs are, I wouldn't say they're top of the line. They're good for beginning out, starting out, and learning how to use them. If you get these or ham radios, if you're not licensed, don't key up, because you might have some people in body armor kicking down your door and taking your radio and putting some handcuffs on you, or just get fined by the FCC. But the reason we went with these GMRS is it's a $35 cost to get a license. A ham radio, you have to study and take a test and pass to get a license. GMRS, all you gotta do is go on the FCC website, pay your $35, put your driver's license in, and you and everybody in that family could use that GMRS radio. So, and good channels to know is 16 is for overlanders, basically 4x4, 4x16, or 4x4. So channel 16, channel 19 is usually the highway. A lot of truckers and all that stuff be using that so you can keep on track of traffic, anything that's going on the highways. But it's a good investment. Longer antennas, you can put a repeater on your house, you can put an actual GMRS radio or antenna on your house. I mean, they go like $80 for a large antenna. But I mean, that's pretty much the medium of communications where you want to be. There's actually something that if you guys are really interested in communications, like for prepping and all stuff, there's something just called Ghost Mesh that came out, and I'm still doing research on it, but it's pretty much a secured texting without anybody knowing or any big brother watching you whatsoever. You can actually reach people. I'm still doing a lot of research. It just recently came out. Ham radio, you'll reach a lot more people a lot farther distance, and especially if there's antennas like the amateur radio right there in Heber Heights. That's a massive antenna, will help you reach more people, and a broadcast on UHF and VHF as well. All these radios, you get the NOAA weather, emergency alerts for natural disasters, but you can also tune in to different stations and hear what's going on from different people in that area. But you got to be worried about is with the GMRS radios, it is not a private network. So when you program a channel in from a repeater, it's not only you or your group that's going to be on that channel. Anybody can scan that channel and hop on that one as well. So that comes with, if you use it between call signs and just little words where people know, you guys can just come up with your own code where just keywords that you can basically tell that other person where you're going without actually telling them. You want me to do a communications class too? But I mean, eventually I would like to get my ham. The ham radio is only $35 as well, but you're going to spend a lot of time studying for it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you have to get the license before you can get the radio?
No.
Repeat that.
No, you can buy the radio. You can buy everything that you need, set it up and everything, but before you key up that first time, you have to get your license. The GMRS, I already have, I haven't paid for it yet, but I already have my call sign for it. Once you start registering for the GMRS, it will give you, I think it's like six letters and numbers, which is your identification, basically your radio call sign. So you have that. So once you hit send, they send you the information certificate, you could use the GMRS. The ham radio, you could actually set it up in your house, set it up in your car, wherever you want. You could actually turn it on and listen to people, scan channels, drive around, put all the repeaters and antennas into your system, as long as you don't key up that microphone. That's the biggest thing. I mean, I doubt anybody's going to like track you down for it. All the major ham radio guys might give you an earful through the radio about it. But I mean, most likely you probably never see any of them anyway, so you ain't got to worry about it. So those are good communications to think about. Those are pretty much the only ways I know of right now for communications, besides satellite phones and all that stuff, but I am not depending on that to be around. And, well, at the end of this, I'll go into how to protect those and all that stuff from EMPs and stuff like that as well. So, shelter-wise, what you want to carry in your get-home bag. Shelter, ripstop tarp, any tarp, go to Menards, pick up a tarp, $5-10. The biggest thing with tarps, if anybody's ever used a tarp, you unfold it. It never folds back up like it's supposed to. It goes from that thin, and next you know you have this big bulky thing. You're like, it's not that big. So we have those, but we got away from those. Everybody knows what a Mylar blanket is? I swear that's not me in the middle. But Mylar blanket is the emergency blankets, keeping body heat. We keep those on us. The problem with those are they're very thin. They're pretty much, a lot of them are one-time uses. Eventually I'll show you guys how you could actually take that and that, put them together and have a pretty nice warm shelter. But
I can't see the light, sir. Tell us why.
This is a tarp.
Yes.
Okay? Tarp. Mylar blanket.
Sew those together.
Yeah. We have these. Because we do hammock camping and all that stuff, we use rain flies. More durable, and they're lighter. And you could actually pack them down into a pretty small size. You don't actually have to fold it. You can switch it up and put it into a small bag. And most of them already come with guidelines on them, so you ain't got to carry extra cordage, which is a plus. So, and I think on Amazon, the ones we have are like Wise Out. I think they're like, I think it's a 8-footer. I think it's only like $18. I mean, we have other ones that small down and big ones. We have different size tarps. It all depends on how much weight you want to carry, or basically what you're going to use it for. Self-protection, guns, handguns, knives. Personally, I carry a gun to a gunfight. I carry a gun to a knife fight. That's my choice. My belief is at the end of the day, I'm going home. So I mean, it's all your choice. If you're not comfortable carrying a gun, that's understandable. Don't carry one. If you're curious about carrying a gun, go to a range, shoot a couple, take some classes. There's some good NRA instructors out there that will teach you how to properly handle yourself. They show you how to do home protection. And just like Range USA right there in downtown Dayton, by the Dayton Mall, they actually have a women's shooting group too. They do self-defense and they do training for women. Not saying that men are better than women or anything like that. So I'm just saying there's different groups. Knives, handheld weapons. I mean,
You were getting to it. Never mind. Go ahead.
what? Oh. Knives. I always carry a pocket knife on me no matter what. If I need to cut rope, defend myself, or cut cheesecake, I'm prepared. So, handheld weapons. Most of our bags, I know her bag and all stuff, for getting home and all stuff, she has a hatchet in it, a Fisker hatchet. I carry Camp 10 machete on mine, but I mean, it's not necessary because it kind of stands out. I mean, I'd be using that for like a 3-day adventure into woods. But smaller knives, like more knives, bushcraft knives and all stuff. I mean, they're good to carry. In her car, she has a baseball bat. You never know when you're gonna need a baseball bat. I mean, it's better than nothing. Pepper spray gel. I'm gonna find that green one, dye one. Tasers.
Can a person buy a taser somewhere?
Yeah, you can buy it on Amazon. How about hers on Amazon? Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. You could use wasp spray. Yeah, but you could make your own pepper spray too. Isopropyl alcohol, some cayenne pepper. You're good to go.
We keep wasp spray at work because we're not allowed to have like any kind of carries.
Yeah.
So like if you work at a place where like you can't have weapons, keeping wasp spray because it, like you said, will have distance, and for the eyes typically you can look and shot where you're using it.
Wasp spray works good too. So does bear spray. Bear spray has a pretty good distance as well on it. But the problem with the difference between wasp spray and bear spray is about $30. So, just be forewarned. But I mean, even in tasers are great. She has a taser, but I have learned, don't play with the taser when your wife's driving. She was doing something, and I was like, clack.
I wasn't even paying attention. I was driving and
Yeah. I got an earful for that the rest of the day. So, I mean, it's all that you're comfortable with. I mean, if you're not comfortable with, there's a whole variety of self-defense stuff. Pepper guns, they make pepper spray. I mean, you have little keychain daggers. You got small like daggers that look like pins and all stuff. It's all what you're comfortable with. And they got monkey balls. That's pretty much it's 550 cord that's wrapped around a bearing. So very good. I mean, time consuming to make, but they're good. But know what you're capable of, and if you're just curious about something else, look into taking classes, or if you know somebody that's proficient in that weapon, get with them and have them teach you. This is what I usually carry on me. I usually have a cold steel. I'm a tonto blade fanatic. That's pretty much all the knives I like are tonto blades. These right here, if you're looking for a get home bag, bug out bag, bug in bag, these are pretty good budget knives. These Mora knives, they're 3/4 tang, so the tang is pretty much the part of the metal that goes through the handle. It doesn't go all the way through. These Moras are only like $16 on Amazon. They're good. They're good for survival. They're good for bushcraft. I mean, you could feather sticks with them. I mean, it's pretty much an all-around workhorse. I mean, start out with something small like that. I got one up here. And then move your way up to a nicer bushcraft knife if you want. I mean, it's up to you. The way I treat knives, I mean, I break knives on stuff, so I buy cheap stuff, honestly. First aid. You got to think about the situation. You got to think about your knowledge of first aid. What you're capable of doing. You know, something happens in the real world. You don't want to pull out this humongous manual, but like, okay, so he's bleeding. Yeah, you know. prepare for what you know. That's why I recommend a boo-boo kit. What's a boo-boo kit? It's pretty much the generic first aid kits that you buy anywhere you go. Like you can buy the boo-boo kits for hiking. It says hiking med kit on it. It's going to have all your basics. Band-aids, ointment, ace bandage, cold compress, and all that stuff. Day-to-day bumps and bruises. But the thing is a lot of this stuff you can actually build for cheaper than you can actually buy them. Like all that you buy one for like $20. I mean, you spend a little bit more and you can end up building 3 or 4 different kits. I mean, we have like 6 kits between bags in the house. That, I mean, pretty much if I would have bought just one single kit, like a trauma kit and all that stuff, that would have cost more than all those kits we built together.
It also would be wise to have a belt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, only use it in the last minute, but if somebody's traumatized bad enough, if they're gonna bleed out,
Mm-hmm.
then you put a tourniquet on.
Yep. And that's where, this is what I usually have on me as a trauma kit. It's pretty much a boo-boo kit on steroids. So I carry Israeli bandages, self-adhesive. I carry chest seals. I have decompression needles in mine. I have a nasal pharyngeal in each of the bags, which is also known as a nose worm. Those are fun. Don't ever let anybody practice that on you. It's terrible. It's basically a long, sharp rubber tube that they put into your nostril and twist it so you can breathe. Tourniquets. Your choice of tourniquets, whatever you want. I know there's a whole different kind. There's like C-rat tourniquets and all that stuff. It's your choice. I mean, like she said, a belt can be used as a tourniquet. Your shoelaces can be used as a tourniquet. All your cordage from your equipment can be used as a tourniquet. It's pretty much something that everybody should know how to put on a tourniquet, not just on yourself, but on other people. But you should also know when and when not to use a tourniquet. And say you have to use a tourniquet and the hospitals are full, they can't get to you. But you notice they're feeling better, they're more reactive and all that stuff. So you probably didn't need that tourniquet. So you need to know things of like, you don't just go over there and pop it off, because then all that blood has to go somewhere. You got to know things how like to slowly back it off and then see if they're still bleeding or not. I mean, there's so many different things. I mean, CPR mask, believe it or not, CPR mask comes in a small little, like quarter-size pouch. It's just a plastic protecting you put over somebody's face so you can, when you're administering CPR, that way you don't get their saliva and all that stuff in your mouth. That's pretty gross. But we used to carry like butterfly stitches, butterfly bandages and all stuff, but I usually I use wound glue or super glue if I have to, or get a staple gun. They have one-time use staple guns that if you actually cut yourself really bad, all you gotta do is hold it and you can staple it shut. They also sell like suture kits for sewing, like sewing up like stitches. Some of them are rated as practice, like they'll come with like a fake scars and all that stuff where you can actually practice on them, which is good. But the needles are actually real needles and all that stuff, and there's real sutures too, so you can actually use that as well. So it's for practice, but it's not for practice, if that makes sense. Meds. If anybody's on meds, you gotta make sure you carry extra meds. Gloves, nitrile gloves, rubber gloves. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna need them. You don't want to administer first aid if possible if your hands are dirty. That's just opening up a whole can of worms right there. Splints. I know I carry SAM splints, which is basically a padded piece of metal that forms. So I could use that as a splint. So like broken bone or fracture and all that stuff, I carry one of those. But all these handouts I'm going to give you is going to give you guys like a list of stuff to put in a first aid kit. So it'll help you build from the beginning. Water. All right. You got to know your water supplies. I got a whole handout on that as well for everybody to take home. Situation, location. What's going to happen when the water plants go down and you don't have any water at your house? How are you going to get water? I know some people have rain buckets and all that stuff, which is nice. I wish we had one. We just had like the 5-gallon jugs laying around our house. But you got to decide how you're going to get your water, how much water you want to store, where you're going to store it, things like that. Filters and purification. Natural filters, UV. These are some things like, you've probably heard of life straws for backpacking and all that stuff. They're good. That's all the stuff they remove. But pretty much every hiking filter removes that stuff. So these are good if you really have to, but the problem is you got to stick your face in the water to drink out of it. The new ones you can actually put on the bottle, but these you have to actually stick your face and drink the water out. I'm not trying to stop every 5 minutes when I'm getting home to stick my head in the river to drink water. So, I mean, these are what we usually carry right here. The Sawyer. Sawyer's over here and the Sawyer Minis down here. They're very good. I mean, a lot of backpackers use them. The biggest issue with them is you got to back flush them when they get dirty. So all that murky water goes in there, it will clog it up, and you actually have to syringe the other side and push the water back through and get all that murky stuff out. These are great. I mean, you could actually go to, bless you, you can actually go to Menards and get 2 Sawyer Minis for $24. That's 2 bags. And they filter like 10,000 liters. That's a lot of water. And the Sawyer Minis, actually these 2 ends right here, if you're wearing a Camelback, you could actually slice the Camelback and put it as an inline filter, so you don't have to wait for water filtration. You can just drink on to go. It's going to be slow going, but it's still going to be something. Grail GeoPress, what I have. It filters out everything that the other ones do, but the biggest thing is it removes viruses. So, I mean, that's something to think about. I mean, not just everything, E. coli, salmonella, and all that stuff, but you want something that removes viruses as well. Now, note that most of these, when you filter the water, if you filter lake water, it's still going to taste like lake water no matter what. River water, pond water, it's still going to taste like that. How you disguise it is up to you. I mean, usually like electrolyte tabs, some Gatorade or something like that, some kind of powdery substance. But these Grails are good. The biggest thing about them is they only filter 350 pushes. So that whole thing, once I push it down one, that's one push. So it's only rated for 350, then you have to change out the filter. That's a bad thing. It's a little slow going, but I like them because you could actually fill it up, put the top on, and walk and push it at the same time. So you have water. You don't have to sit there and wait for it to drain and filter through. Chemical tabs. I always carry these. I have some over there. I would be very wary about buying these online, because you buy them online and you might look at the expiration date and it might be 2025 instead of like 4 to 5 years out like they should be. So you might be getting old stock, so you got to be very careful when you buy them. Tablets like the portable Aqua Mira. A lot of those remove pretty much everything besides heavy sediment, metals, and all that stuff. So you're gonna have to filter your water. We'll get to that. But we always carry a bottle of iodine as well. And our med kits, we have iodine. Iodine will pretty much stay for as long as you keep it out of the sun and the elements. They also make a crystalline tablet of iodine that lasts even longer. It's just like a tablet you can drop in. Be very careful about using iodine if you have some health issues. I don't think I listed them, but you might want to look it up. There's certain health issues you don't want to be using iodine with, or you're going to have some serious issues. So the best way is UV. UV will always be the best way to purify water, no matter what. except in a nuclear fallout situation. So like these are mostly hiking stuff like SteriPens. You put it in the water for a certain amount of time so it'll sterilize the water. But drawback is you need clean water. You need clear water. So you're gonna have to filter that water somehow to get all the murkiness, the mud, and cloudiness out before you could actually use a SteriPen. That's the downside. And the price tag is also the downside. I think it's like $100 for that little thing. But I just realized I had 2 water sections. This is the first section. These are the handhelds. I got another section too coming up. So what happens when you put a slide presentation together and you're like, I'm good. Send it to your pastor, then you forget about it, and you're like, I know where everything is. Yeah, never happens. Yeah, because we're still in the get home phase. So get home, MREs, protein bars, anything. Like for longer distance, yeah, I'm going to take some camping food, stopping cooking all that stuff. But if I'm trying to get home, like in the next couple hours, even with MREs, you open it up, you pull the contents out, you throw them in your pack, and you can graze. Treat it like grazing. Walk and eat as you're going. I got the ready hour bars up here. There's like 2,400 calories in one little brick. So you don't have to stop, cook, or nothing. You just keep on eating. Beef jerky, protein bars, even oatmeal. And people are like, how do you eat oatmeal? If you ever done overnight oats, basically you cold soak them. You have some oatmeal, pour some cold water in, give it about 30 minutes, and it's going to soften right up, and you can eat it as you walk. So you want to think about functionality and how not to draw your attention. Because if I stop and cook, if anybody's ever used isobutane stove or anything like that, when you turn it on or you light it up, it sounds like a jet engine. They're going to know where you're at. You start a fire, they're going to smell it. They're going to know where you're at. They're going to see the smoke. It's things to think about. My get home for 24 hours, I'm trying to get home unnoticed while leaving a trace where people can follow me. That's my biggest thing. When you eat, throw the trash in your, put the trash in your pants, put it in your bag and all stuff. You don't want people to know that you've been there. So, find just certain things that you can eat on the go. Fire. We have fire. We carry fire boxes and we carry fire bags. This black cord right here is called Titan cord, Titan Survivor cord. And I have a better picture of this, but this can eliminate a lot of stuff in that fire box for tinder, because the strands inside you have, the brown is basically, it's jute twine. Jute twine is very flammable. We use it as fire tinder. Survivor cord actually has, instead of the regular strands for paracord, it has a couple of those. But you got a tripwire, you got a fishing wire, and you got a fire starter wire in there as well. We carry that because that pretty much eliminates the other stuff that we have to carry, because if you notice, all this stuff is going to add up in your bag. And backpacking, basically, grams lead to ounces, ounces lead to pounds, and pounds lead to pretty much a sore back. So you want to keep it light, but you want to keep it functional, and you want to be prepared. We carry ferro rods. That's wrapped in that. Ferro rod is basically a furry, I'm not even going to say it because I'll butcher it. Basically, if you ever seen somebody striking something and sparks flying out, that's a ferro rod. We carry one of those. We carry stormproof matches. Don't get waterproof matches, get stormproof matches, because you get waterproof, yeah, if they get wet, they'll still light. But the wind blows, they'll go out. You get stormproof. Stormproof is stormproof. Protect against the wind, so once you strike it, it's still going to light. You can put it underwater for at least 10 seconds, it's still going to stay lit. Stormproof matches can be found anywhere, Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards, anywhere you go. This white little bag right there is, nope, press the wrong button. Another good fire starter we carry, that little white, is cotton. Cotton swabs or cotton pads that you use for like makeup and all that stuff. Put Vaseline on it. Vaseline and cotton swabs, great fire starter, it'll last forever and it'll burn forever. Takes a little bit of time. It doesn't really take a lot of time. You just smother a whole bunch of Vaseline on the cotton ball. Tinder-wise, we also carry a lighter, a big lighter. That way you have numerous fire starters. So you're not just limited to like, say you take a big lighter, it gets wet, and then you're pretty much without a fire. Ferro rods, matches, Fresnel lens. I think we have one. It's pretty much just a square, looks like a credit card, and it's pretty much just a magnifying lens. Start a fire with the sun. Fire plugs are awesome. I don't think I have a picture on them. Fire plugs, you can buy a whole bunch of fire plugs for $10, like Bigfoot, Bushcraft, Black Bear, and all that stuff. I'd go with the Bigfoot ones because they smell like cherry. It's pretty awesome. But fire plugs will last forever. We carry fat wood, small slivers of fat wood. I always keep fat wood when it's close to fire. Basically, fat wood is a little bit of aged wood that still has a sap inside of it. So once you light it, it's going to stay lit, it's going to burn longer. Sanitation. When you're trying to get home, the last thing you want to do is be dirty. Not really dirty, but you don't want to be dirty where it's going to get you sick, pretty much. You know, you don't want to be messing around with something all day, debris, mud, whatever else, and then, you know, you're eating food and putting your fingers in your mouth and stuff like that. Wipes. Dude wipes, cold shower. I used to carry those, but it adds up. I use the LOC wipes. They're multi-purpose from Amway. I mean, I use it for everything. You get blood on your clothes, you clean it off, cleans out stains, cleans your gear. I actually, last year we went to Red River Gorge, and that was my showers. I used a whole bunch of LOC wipes. That was good as new. So it's your choice. I mean, none of this stuff I give you, you have to carry. I mean, it's decide what you want, what brand, and all that stuff. You got to decide for yourself what you're going to carry. Tools and miscellaneous. Right there, that top right there is, up there is an example of Titan cord. You see the jute wand, you got the fire starter, you got a fishing line, which is also a trap line. It's good stuff, but it's expensive as well. So beware of that. I'm not telling anybody to do it, but if you're in an urban environment, a lockpicking kit, I'm just going to recommend it, but whatever you do with it, that's your own accord. Lockpicking. Yep. Because, I mean, honestly, if you can't get out of the city, there's locked doors, how are you going to get in, you know, shelter, you need to get in there. What are you going to do? You know, go to a building, hopefully an abandoned building away from people. There's good kits out there. I mean, there also, a lot of them come with manuals and teach you actually how to work on locks. So if anybody asks why you bought that, just say you're thinking about becoming a locksmith. So they'll leave you alone. Urban environment as well. Things like we carry. I carry lineman pliers in case I have to cut fence, I have to cut wire, get through an area. They come in handy. This top one up here in the middle is what they call a fireman's tool. So you see a lot of doors when they have the metal guard on the outside where you're not supposed to be able to pry it. You're able to drop it in and drop it down, and it'll basically open the door for you. Not saying use that for that, but just saying it's a good thing to have. Hand crank radio. I have one over there. I talked with Kathy earlier about them. Find one. It not only has hand crank, but it actually has solar as well. It has an attached battery pack, and it will charge your phone, your electronics. I mean, there's some pretty good ones out there from like Midwest or Midland. Some, like that one picture, it's not too badly priced. They usually come in a pair of two. And not to mention, when communication goes down, you'll still be able to get NOAA, radio stations, and all that as well through that. Something good to have. Mini crowbar. It comes back to even just in your everyday in your car. If you got to pry open a door, it'd be nice to have a crowbar. You get into a building, it'd be nice to have a crowbar. Battery packs. Chargers, we usually try to go with USB solar chargers. That way we don't have to rely on trying to find an outlet to plug in. We can just charge as we go. Yeah, I know this looks weird over here with the climbing gear, but I carry rope and climbing gear with me as well, because I never know if I'm going to be stuck in a building, or say on the way home I got to traverse through a valley, but it's a steep drop. I'm going to have to find a way to get down it. So I have rope and carabiners as well, and I know how to make a Swiss seat out of rope, so I'm pretty good to go. Am I going to leave the rope there after I'm done? Most likely, because I'm not going to try to retrieve it. I'm just going to keep on going. So, Gorilla Tape, pretty much used for everything. I mean, I carry a roll. You can make it small as you want. You can make it as big as you want. It depends how much you want. You can take a lighter and roll 3 feet of Gorilla Tape around a lighter. It'd be nice and small and still reusable. Binoculars, I mean, they're pretty much a must-have. You want to see what's down the street, you want to see what's down the road without actually going to the road. You just grab a pair. We carry binoculars. I mean, they're only 1x8s, but once again, we're in an urban environment, so we don't need something long range, really. Great multi-tool. I mean, you should always have a multi-tool, no matter what. It cuts down on having to carry pliers, the screwdrivers, mini fixes, everything. Should be a given. Headlamps and flashlights. USB solar charge if possible. That way you ain't got to worry about looking around batteries, because batteries get heavy after a while. But if you decide to go with batteries, just remember, if your headlamp takes AAA's, make sure your flashlight takes AAA's. That way you're not carrying AAA's, AA's, D cells, 9 volts. You ain't carrying like 40 different batteries. This, you really don't need. I mean, you carry zip ties because you never know when you're going to need a zip tie for then. Those are flex cuffs. I carry flex cuffs because my first instinct is not going to basically use my EDC if I don't have to. If I can hold them down and detain them and put them in flex cuffs, and then I can leave without any loud noise or commotion, I'm going to do that. So that's why I carry those. Now, I mean, you also got to understand, let's say an EMP hit. We'll go with the EMP scenario. Trying to get home, you know that most power is going to be out. Gas stations are going to be down. You're going to need, if it's long distance, you're going to need some bartering or buying power. Credit cards, machines aren't working. You need to get water. I mean, food. You're going to need cash. Cash is king. Or precious metals. A lot of people carry around these small little pieces of gold for bartering. Also, if you want, any coins made before 1964 actually have silver in them. You can use those. Bartering equipment, you never know if you're, they're smokers or they want alcohol and all stuff. I mean, just things that you could barter with. The one thing I'd say you never want to do is, especially if you're bugging in, is you don't want to barter with your food or your water or the stock that you have. Because you bring that to the table to somebody and they're going to kind of think to themselves, how much more do they have? And then you're going to create a whole new problem for yourself. And this is where it comes into bug in or bug out. Bug in is basically what pretty much a lot of us are going to do. If something happens, we're going to get it once we get home, we're going to stay in our home. We're not going to go anywhere. As to where a bug out situation is pretty much the last resort. A bug out could be for a week. Natural disaster, tornadoes coming, you're right in the path, you're going to bug out. You're going to grab what supplies you have and leave. Nuclear attack, you're going to grab stuff and get out of the blast radius. Things like that. Or it's going to be a last-ditch scenario of where a whole lot of bad guys are knocking on your door and you're going to have to leave your house and never come back. So that is a bug out situation. These two things, I mean, they're pretty much a class. All this stuff is pretty much a class in itself on each point. There it is, bugging in and bugging out. Bugging out refers to leaving your current location to find a safer place. So I didn't put a lot of information about bugging in and bugging out in this because it would have extended the whole presentation probably by another 2-3 hours. I don't think anybody wants that right now. All right, so the next section we're going back into water sources and filtration. So Everybody knows you don't want to drink dirty water or chemical-filled water. First one we're talking about is UV light. You don't have a UV light filter in your house, and you got to filter water. You get simple as doing this. Fill up a plastic. Most of these, your cider vinegar bottles, your Gatorade bottles are called PET, PETE bottles, because when you look at the bottom it says PET. I didn't make it up. Look it up online. It's a real thing. But PET. What's that? I said most of these bottles are PET bottles because they say PET on the bottom. So people refer to them as PET bottles. These Gatorade bottles, like your humongous apple cider vinegar bottles and all that stuff, they're all PET bottles because it has that little recycling symbol that says PET. So just call them PET. But in a pinch, you could do UV light like this if you're in a survival situation. Pretty much. Fill up the bottle 3/4 of the way full, turn it on its side, and wait about 6 to 8 hours. Let the sun do it. Now, am I going to drink it right after 6 to 8 hours? Probably not. I'm probably going to still boil it, just in case. You know, that extra step to make sure everything's dead. But in a pinch, you can use UV light just like that if you have to. Or you can get, like this, the E-Springs. UV light filtration is pretty much the best filtration there is unless there's a nuclear scenario. Then a UV filtration system ain't gonna do you no good. It's probably just gonna amplify the radiation, honestly. So it'd be UV, one of these units, reverse osmosis is right under it. So, I mean, you're gonna have to choose which one is better rated for you. But like this one has carbon blocking filters, which is good. UV light. So basically it filters all the heavy metals, chemicals, and all that stuff before the UV light disinfects it. So, I mean, they're good. UV lights are good, but they're also very, very expensive. So you gotta be careful. Boiling. Everybody knows, I mean, a lot of times you see water boiling in advisory and all stuff. You should boil your water. This is a little guideline on how you should boil your water. But I'm pretty sure not a lot of people are going to sit there with a thermometer and wait for it to hit 160 and then wait 30 minutes. I'm pretty sure a lot of us are going to turn it on real fast and rapid boil it for a certain amount of time. So, and I'd advise if you got to boil water, boil it in large batches. The biggest pots and pans that you could find. Don't boil it a cup at a time because you're just going to waste all that fuel burning, all that fuel that you're going to need later for cooking. So, boiling and bleach. These two actually work really good together. So, this gives you a little bit of how much bleach you're supposed to use. So I would bleach the water first before boiling it. And before you do anything else, make sure you filter the water. It can be simple as using a cheesecloth or a bandana to have the water go through. It removes the impurities and all that cloudiness. But I'd bleach the water, put it in the sun, or aerate it. Aerate it is just basically, taking 2 glasses and swishing them between each other or blowing bubbles in it, aerating it. And then once the chemical smell goes away, the bleach smell goes away, then I'd boil it anyways, just make sure it kills it. But that's just me. Purification tablets, chlorine dioxide. We already talked a little bit about those. Then you have drops like this. These, I've heard a lot of good stuff about these. These are good for purifying water, but these are also good for long-term water storage. A lot of people are putting these into their long-term water storage before they actually put them away. So if you fill up a gallon or 5-gallon water and you're about to put it away, a lot of people are putting these drops in there because it refreshes the water. And I should wear my glasses. Yeah, So those are good. They also have other mineral drops too, but we'll get into that. Um, the iron drops, you can actually get them on Amazon. If you just look up ion water treatment too, I think there's a couple websites as well that sell them as well. There's like a website called The Water Guys, and they pretty much break down every water purification. I mean, just into itty bitty parts, but I mean, it's a lot to read. Next part. I don't think most of us are moonshiners, so I don't think a lot of us are going to be doing distilling. So that is, if the grade goes down, that is probably one of the best ways, besides UV and reverse osmosis, is distilling. Because, I mean, it's pretty much heating out the water, boiling it, and it's going out through a pipe. So all the heavy sediments are left in what you're cooking. So it's pretty much clear water. And here is, if worse comes to worse, if you have to, you can make your own filter. Take a bottle, I mean, you can take a bucket, drill a hole in it, put a bandana, a cloth, even a coffee filter. Coffee filters work great. Like you could use like the activated charcoal powder we have, make a charcoal filter at the bottom, sand on top, gravel. Then on top of the gravel, you want to put some kind of foliage. But make sure you clean all that stuff before you actually try to make a filter. So if you're sitting by a stream or something and you need the rocks, wrap the rocks in a bandana and put it into water so all that heavy sediment gets away from them. You'll have clean rocks. Because if not, you're going to be filtering, and then you're going to keep on going back and forth. But, I mean, there's other ways too. You can make a clay filter as well. Basically, clay from the earth. You put it in a huge bucket and you pour water on top of it and wait for it to drip through. That's going to take a while. But I wouldn't use this unless I really, really have to. This would be out of all the water things, this would be the second from the last that I would ever use. This would be like dire situations. This is pretty much you went through your whole food storage, went through your whole water storage, and you're pretty much on your own. You're looking for something. For plants on top, good things to use are like pine needles, thyme, things like sage and all that stuff. Medicinal purposes, and it helps the water taste better as well. And this would be this next one would be the last thing you want to do. It's pool shock. Yeah. This would be dire. This is pretty much your end of the road right here if you have to use pool shock. Basically, there's a formula. I don't know if I put it in the handout or you could actually look it up. There's a formula to turn it into chlorine, turn it into bleach, and then you can add it to disinfect water. It's a whole process. I'm not even going to touch it. I am not going to give any instructions on it. But if you're curious about pool shock, all you got to do is look up pool shock to purify water. But, I mean, we do have pool shock just in case we need it in the end, but I don't think we ever will. So stay away from it unless you have to. Reverse osmosis. Great way to purify water. If you look up like Atlas Survival Shelters, the bunker company and all that stuff, every bunker that's built has a reverse osmosis system. Now you got to be careful when you get a reverse osmosis. There's some drawbacks too. These big boys on the end are tanks. Because you have so many filters of water to go through, pretty much it'll filter through and fill up that tank, so you're only going to have so much pressure. You're going to have lower pressure in your water when you drink and all that stuff. And you got to realize that if you, say, fill up 2-3 gallons of water through your filter, you're going to have to wait a little bit for it to recharge, for that reservoir to build up again. It's very slow going. You got activated charcoal filters in it. This is pretty much what it removes. The biggest thing is two things, or one thing is Where is, yeah. Right there, the remineralization filter. You gotta make sure that is included with your filter system. Because if you don't, the whole process is gonna remove all the minerals that your body needs out of that water. And then you're gonna have to rely on either mineral supplements or mineral drops to remineralize it, put minerals back in that water. So if you choose to go with the reverse osmosis, if you do whole house, very expensive, or you're just doing drinking water, make sure you read and make sure that they have that mineral filter on it, or also known as the alkaline filter. All it's really doing is realkalining the water. So water sources, you know what? I skipped this whole entire section. So there's going to be a handout that you guys get with water sources. So I'll look at that. But I mean, simple things. Streams, good water. How to dig for water. Greener plants usually mean there's water underneath it. Water you want to stay away from. Running rivers. For the factor is, you got to realize that there's a lot of runoff that goes into that river. And where you get your water from in that river, there's an upriver. And what are people doing in that upriver? Same, more and more and more. So just because it's fast moving doesn't mean it's going to be clean. So rivers, I would stay away from. Puddles, stay away from. Runoff, stay away from. Flood water, stay away from. I mean, between pesticides, oils, gas, and all that stuff, and runoff, as well as puddles and all that stuff, you're not going to be able to filter that stuff out. So stay away from those. Lakes, if you have to get water out of a lake, go to the center of the lake. That's where the cleanest water is going to be. Giardia lives in water. Giardia also likes to settle at the bottom of water. So the deeper you go, the farther down that bacteria, microorganism is going to be. So it's going to be cleaner water. You don't want to ever drink water straight off the bank line. For one, it accumulates there, puddles there, animals drink there, animals use the bathroom there, bugs die there, and all that stuff collects there on the bank. So you never want to drink directly off the bank. What time is it? What time is it? 2:45. Oh, geez. Okay. It's 2:45. So I'm going to go through this with speedy water containers. Self-explanatory. Jerry cans. Thicker the plastic, the better it is. It's going to be store water. You do not want clear bottles if you can. If you do get clear bottles, make sure you store them in a dark place. Because the enemy of all food and water is sunlight, humidity, and heat. When you store food and water, make sure you store it below 75 degrees in your house. Keep it in a dark area. Try to keep it as low humidity as possible. Make sure when you store things that your buckets say food grade on them. They're not food grade. I would not store food or anything in them because that means there's more chemical in that plastic than you really want, and that stuff will seep into your food. Right there, dark room cover, ideally under 70, 75 degrees. I know that's going to be hard, especially if you live in an apartment, second floor, and all that stuff with the fluctuating temperature and heat rising. When you store it, you want to keep it off the ground. You never want to store anything on the ground. That's common sense, rodents, pests, and all that stuff. At least store it at least 6 inches off the ground, or 4x4s and some plywood, and store it on top of that. You got water, put tarps over it. Same goes with food storage. I wish my pantry looked like that. Ways to store food. Everyday pantry. You buy it from the grocery store, you put it in the pantry, use it when you want to use it. A lot of stuff has a lifespan. Vacuum seal. Vacuum bags, Mylar bags, buckets, totes, and peat bottles. Yes, you could actually do long-term food storage in peat bottles. Would I do it? Maybe. Vacuum seal, pros and cons. It's good, removes oxygen. The problem is, most of the stuff that you vacuum seal, if it's not dried, you put it in the pantry, you're going to have to put it in the freezer or in the fridge. Vacuum sealing is very porous. Eventually, you're going to get all the oxygen put back into that. Hence why I have oxygen absorbers over here, and they're in a vacuum sealed. And there's an indicator when it turns completely pink, means there's oxygen in there, and it's completely pink. I've only had those for like 6 months. So I got to get a whole new batch. Plus, when you store stuff, you really don't want clear, because once again, light's the enemy. Light will deteriorate food, especially if you store it in clear containers. Light will destroy vitamin C in your food in a heartbeat. So be wary of that. You don't necessarily have to avoid clear stuff, and just make sure you keep it in a dark room to keep it out of the sun, direct sunlight. Once again, vacuum seal bags, one-time use, then you have to get rid of them. So this website is awesome, Pack Fresh USA. It's where I get my Mylar bags, my absorbers from. The good thing about this too is up there where it says, oh, it's not up there, but there's actually a Prepper University. Scroll down on it. Is there? Yeah, Prepper University. There's actually a calculator that'll tell you how much of certain food that you need, because your body needs at least 2,000 calories per day. You do not want to go below that, because you go to 1,500 calorie, say you try to cut back and do 1,500 calories, your body's going to go into starvation mode, and it's going to start to eat itself, and you're going to lose function. This will tell you how much of wheat, rice, beans, and stuff that you need to store for yourself for a certain amount of time. Put it for 3 months, 2 people, will show you how much of the poundage that you need. Mylar bags are great, last a long time. We use them. Backpacking food uses them. Problem is, too, is they can be delicate and they're not rodent proof, but when used properly, they're really good. So, right here, pros and cons about it. Bulky. They're not very flexible, so once you close them up and seal them up, they're not very pliable. So you have to stick them in and be careful. Punctured, bags render useless. If you're going to get Mylar bags, I would not go below 7 mils, MILs. Anything lower than 7 mils, and it's getting very thin into like aluminum foil thickness, and you really don't want that when you're storing food. The best use for Mylar bags are in buckets. One thing you would never do is when you store rice and beans is pour your rice and beans directly into the bucket. Plastic's porous. Eventually, the chemicals in that plastic are going to seep into your food. Eventually, your food's going to taste like plastic. And then you also got to think, popping that lid on and off with that food just sitting in there, you're going to have some serious issues when you get lower between pests, rodents, and whatever else forms on your food. The best way to avoid that as well is lids. Our buckets, we have beans, rice, pasta, and all that stuff in each bucket, and it's labeled in Mylar bags, and then we have the bucket closed. There's 2 different types of lids, snap-on and the gamma lids. Gamma lids are good if, say, you open that bucket and you're going to use it for that whole week. You open it up, use it, and put it back on, and it seals tightly. You ain't got to worry about it. They're a little bit more expensive, but I mean, you pretty much could do the same thing with the snap-on for like $2, so I'd use the snap-on. Long-term food storage is usually 5+ years. Some foods can last up to 20 years when properly preserved and stored. Here's food that is not suitable for long-term storage. Foods containing oils, fatty acids, moistures, and suitable for long-term preservation. So fatty meats, things like that. I mean, you really don't want to store. Brown rice, you do not want to store for longer than 2 years because of the oils in the wheat or in the brown rice. It'll go rancid on you real quick. There's a list right there. I mean, pretty sure there's ways to keep it fresher and longer, like dried meat, like beef jerky and all that stuff to extend it. I mean, I haven't really done much research on it. Like a lot of the multi-grain, like the grains, if you can, keep them as whole as possible. Buy a mill, grind them up later. Brown sugar, that's going to go bad on you. There, oxygen absorbers, and put them in a bucket. Good thing about Mylar bags too, when you seal them up, you don't need a special tool to seal them up. You could use a hair straightener and an iron. It'll seal up the bag. see, my bags, resin. Yeah, at a minimum of 5.4 mils, up to 7-8 mils. Just got to think about the pliability. It also depends on what you're packing into it too, as well. I mean, if you're gonna just pour a whole bunch of rice into a bucket, you can get a 5-gallon, 5 mil bag that's pretty thin, and just pour all the rice in, put an absorber in there, and seal it up, and you ain't gotta worry about it. But if you're using smaller stuff like pasta and all the stuff that will actually poke through a bag, you might want to go with a thicker, like a 7 mil bag. How much will fit in a bag? I mean, common rule, not more than it can hold. So usually you want to fill up to about 3/4 of the bag, no matter what size you have. We got gallon bags, and we actually have the smaller resealable bags. So once we seal it up and we rip out the seal, we could actually keep it closed. You want to fill it up to about that much, because once you put the oxygen absorber in there, depending on how much you have, it's going to suck all that air out into the oxygen absorber, so it's going to pack everything down tightly. The more stuff you put in it, the less room basically you're going to have for that whole absorption process, and might end up tearing the bag or actually puncturing it. So you got to be careful about that. So here's some shelf life of some foods like hard grains, wheat, 15 to 20 years, soft grains, rolled oats. If you're going to store oatmeal, I would go with rolled oats or steel cut. I would not use the instant or quick because they will not store long. Plus, as we all know, that Quaker Oats General Mills has been using some chemicals in their stuff, so you don't want to stay away from that. Flour, you can store flour for. The biggest thing about flour, like white flour, unbleached flour, that you got to worry about is weevils. There's ways to get the weevils out. There's ways to kill the weevils, or you can just eat the weevils. I mean, most of us do anyways. I mean, nobody really notices it. White rice, 8 to 10 years. They'll last longer. Brown rice, 1 to 2 years. Beans, it says 8 to 10 years. I mean, this is from there's so many conflicting. But beans will last forever. You put them in a Mylar bag, you seal them up, and put them away and forget about them. They'll be good whenever you need them. Dehydrated fruits and vegetables, if they're done right, if they're below, I think 15% humidity or moisture, they'll store longer. So you got to be careful when you dehydrate food. Dried milk. If you're going to do like powdered milk is really good to store up on. If you're going to do it, make sure you get the non-fat or low fat. If you get the whole fat, it's going to go bad on you. So hit up the baby aisle and take all the milk. It's right to keep it. Dried eggs. If you do freeze-dried eggs, you ain't got to worry about it. Most of the stuff is if you actually use a dehydrator and all that stuff. It's also how you store it, pack it. Sugar, honey, salt, molasses are indefinite. I mean, they found honey in Egyptian tombs and it's still good. Same with rice, same with beans. So salt, molasses, maple syrup is really good too. It'll last indefinite as well. Here's some stuff that can last forever. This is a lot of the stuff we do stock up on, except for wheat berries. I just recently heard about wheat berries, but I heard they take place of regular flour and all that stuff. So I'm gonna check out that more. But I know a lot of this stuff is like more pottery, but honey, apple cider vinegar. If you get it, make sure you just keep it out of the sun, store it in a dark spot. Unfiltered is really good. It still has the mother in it and all that stuff. You can store that for a long time. Bouillon cubes. Alcohol. I mean, I know, not to drink, but I mean, you could use it for different things, medicinal as well. You could use it for wound treatment, things like that, bartering. But you can store whiskey, grain alcohol like Everclear, vodka, and all that stuff. As long as it's not flavored, it'll last forever once you store it. Soy sauce will stay because of the salt content. Most of the stuff you've noticed, the salt content will keep it alive and will keep it stored.
You're at 257.
Okay. Vanilla extract. Basically, it gets better with age, so the longer you store it, the better it's going to be. Pemmican and hardtack are two really good things that you might want to look up. Pemmican down here is pretty much beef powder and beef fat, or animal fat and all stuff, and it'll store forever. It's a Native American. I have yet to make it, but I'm curious about it. Hardtack is pretty much a really hard biscuit like sailors used to eat back in the days, and they used to have it in the Civil War. Those things too will last forever, so you have to make those, but those will last forever, and we're getting short on time, so I'm going to breeze through these real quick. If you guys want the presentation, I can send it to you guys. That's no problem. There's another list of food. So, potato flakes, instant potatoes will last forever. I mean, a lot of the stuff, it varies too. It's how you store it and how you prep it. Like canned food, canned meat. Libby's is really good, as if you can get it without the barbecue sauce or any kind of sauces. If you get the pot roast or roast beef and all that stuff, it'll last good. It'll be good. Canned broth, it's not going to last. I mean, you have bouillon cubes, vegetables, all that stuff. Here's another one. Fish. If you buy canned fish, make sure it's stored in oil. It'll help preserve it. And the greatest food of all time. Hey, a whole generation lived off that. If you've been to Hawaii, you know it's a big thing in Hawaii. So we call this mystery meat. Spam, potted meat, Vienna sausages, and all that stuff. They'll last a long time when stored properly. Canned storage. I mean, label your cans, date your cans to where you can read it. If your can is dented, get rid of it. It's not going to be any good. If it's bulging, if it's talking to you or hissing, get rid of it. Don't eat it. If you open it up and it looks like a science project, don't eat it. I mean, I might try it, but don't eat it. I'm curious about this one too, large storage. Pork, sardine, and all that stuff. It's basically cook the meat however you want and storing it in a bunch of lard. I have yet to try that, but I mean, I know a lot of people who actually do that. Actually, I got friends in Alabama who actually do this all the time. And there's your peat bottles. Peat. You can store it like that. Just make sure you seal up the top container, but I mean, if that's all you have, that's all you have. I mean, when you're prepping, do what you can afford, no more. Make a budget, set stuff aside. If you go to the store and you're having pasta tonight, buy an extra box of pasta noodles. That's the start. That's all you got to do. You don't have to go out and drop $300-400 on food right away. Dehydrator or freeze dry is the biggest thing. I personally go with freeze dried just because it's going to last forever. I keep it out of the sun, I keep it out of the elements, I can put it away and forget about it and come back to it when I need it. I don't have to worry. Dehydration is good for short term. There's also been a debate about dehydration, how you lose a lot of the vitamins in your food because of the cooking. But then you look at freeze dried and it's cooking as well too. So there's a big debate about it. But the biggest one I know you lose in dehydration is vitamin C. But there's ways to combat that too. But freeze dried is pretty much the humidity in the food is less than 2%. So it's shelf stable no matter what it is. And you could virtually freeze dry anything. And I mean, sauces, everything. So dehydration, not so much. Shorter life, freeze dried, longer life. And just let Pastor Niel know, Harvest Right has a sale going on the freeze dryers right now. That would look good in the kitchen. And Pack Fresh does all the certifications, just so you know, too. So we could pack our own.
Tell her again what it is,
Harvest Right is freeze dryers. It's up to you which one you choose to use, if you're going to prep for a long time or you're going to prep for a short time. So you got to make that decision. I'd like to prep, and then if I pass on, at least somebody who comes into my house will have food, personally. Grid down power options, generators, batteries, lithium batteries, or alkaline batteries, whichever you want to store. Keep the moisture out, silica packets, oxygen absorbers, keep them, along with everything else, out of the sun in a nice dry area. Battery packs, solar battery packs, generators. If you're going to go with the generator, these are for smaller ones. We use a lot of USB solar stuff just because it's less batteries and we don't have to worry about lugging that stuff around. EcoFlows, very good generators, very expensive. Generators. If you decide to buy a generator, go with a multi-fuel generator. Get one that does like gas and diesel or gas and propane. Propane is very shelf stable, will last a long time compared to gas and diesel. Gasoline itself will only last a couple months before it deteriorates. Diesel will last about 12 to 18 months before it deteriorates. Propane, you got a lot longer to last with those. There's new stuff out on the market that's pretty expensive, but it will increase every year if you add it to your fuel, it will increase the storage capacity. Solar, if you have the money, go with solar. Solar's a great way to pretty much live off the grid, where you don't have to rely on the power grid no more. Just be careful the solar company you go to. If the people show up to your door selling solar, don't get from them because it's probably a ripoff. Companies like Solarc aren't too bad. A Fortress Power or a Fortress Battery is really good. I have a list of all the people. There's a guy called Sensible Prepper, and Engineer 775. He actually does installations of solar. He's actually only a short drive in Charlotte, North Carolina, too, and he comes up here and installs all the time. Gas multi-fuel. And you also got to realize, just because you buy a generator doesn't mean it's going to run everything. Average household needs about 3,000 kilowatts from a generator to run a full-size fridge and lights. So you got to take that into consideration when you buy a generator. Is it going to be used for your fridge, or is it going to be used for your whole house? And if you do solar, most of the good solar companies like Fortress Power Battery will actually come out and actually walk you through it and consult you on how much power you need. Just know that when times get tough, if you do have a generator, a quiet box would be a good thing to have, because the last thing you want is people to be going by your house and realize you have power and they don't. So quiet boxes will help keep the noise down, help keep the smoke down, and some of them, if you do it right, will be EMP proof as well, like a Faraday cage. So, nuclear. This is an issue because we're right next to Wright-Patterson. And Wright-Patterson has a lot of technology on it, and we won't even go into what they have underneath Wright-Patterson. That'd be for another class. But we got to worry about that, and that's,
You're at 306.
I know, I'm almost done. I'm getting there. So nuclear, you got to be careful about that. If certain health issues that people have with iodine, you got to be careful with this too. Like ThyroSafe is iodine based as well. Most of your medication that you're going to need for a nuclear disaster is iodine based, potassium and iodine based, because radiation attacks your thyroid and it's slowly going to kill you. So what happens when you start off, you got a nuke coming in. Most of us nowadays will get an alert on our phone, but you only have a couple of minutes. So the biggest thing to do is seek shelter. The very low, if you got a basement, get in the basement. Don't duck down in your car because you'll die in your car. So get to quickest shelter possible. The thicker the walls, the more industrial, the better. The biggest thing you got to worry about is radioactive fallout. It's not so much the blast and everything. You got to worry about the wind direction and where all those radioactive particles fall out. I have a map for that as well to show us where the intended fallout for Ohio is. So Fallout is what's pretty much going to kill you. It's going to burn you. It's going to eat away at you. It's going to stop your breathing. It's going to get pretty nasty. Here's a map. It shows the fallout up there. Heat. If you're in the blast, you're gone. If you're in immediate nuclear radiation, you're pretty much toast, unless you're deep in a bunker. The heat's going to burn you, but you still have a chance to survive. Radioactive fallout, you got about 30 minutes after the blast before it starts raining down black rain. And nobody wants to be caught out of that, so seek shelter as fast as you can and wait it out. It's going to take you about 72 hours for it to start to clear. Find shelter, brick and concrete, structure. Basement would be much better. Most residential homes won't offer any protection. First thing you want to do when you get out of radiation, take a shower, get rid of your clothes, and wash and scrub with soap. Don't use hand sanitizer, and don't use conditioner or lotions, because all you're going to do is spread around that radiation all over your body, and it's going to burn you even more. So this goes with you. This goes with your pets as well, too. First thing you want to do is you want to brush them on and wash them and get them cleaned up. Like I said, the longer it's on you, the longer it's going to cook. The fallout could blow up to 20 miles, even more.
I had Colonel out at Bright Pat tell me that anybody within a 30-mile radius of Bright Pat kiss your ass.
Yep, pretty much. One thing about harvest though is here's the fallout line and here's harvest right here. It just goes right by us. For the nuclear fallout. The nuclear fallout map shows harvest, like shows us right here in Brookville, and most of it goes this way towards Cleveland.
So we're good.
No, we're not gonna do it. No, we're getting there. We're getting there. Is this hooked up to the internet? Okay. Okay. So I'll show you guys here in a second. So. Stay away from the outer walls. So like if we're in here, you don't want to be against that wall. Stay close to that wall. You want to go to the internal area. You want to stay away from the walls because the walls will start seeping radiation and UV. And you don't want that. Short of 6-foot concrete walls or lead walls, I mean, stay away from the walls. The biggest things we got to worry about, these are attacks. Surface burst, you got to worry about that much. Subsurface. Air burst and high altitude, I think is what we're going to be more focused on in this area. But with air burst comes EMPs as well too. That's where a lot of EMPs start from. How to keep radiation out of your house? It's simple. When you get home, after you take a shower and everything, grab like plastic trash bags and all that stuff. Start taping up your windows, your vents, everything. Shut off your AC. Basically seal yourself up in there. And if you have, stay out of your car. Get a HEPA filter with active carbon. So like air purifiers and all stuff, if you have a HEPA, if it has HEPA and active carbon, will greatly reduce the radioactive and the debris in your house. So if you look at a lot of NBC, nuclear, biological, chemical bunkers and all that stuff, that's why they always have the carbon filters to filter out all that stuff. So think about that next time you buy an air purifier or basically just any filter for your house. EMP blast, solar flares. Yeah. Pretty much this is going to be from a high altitude nuke detonation too. Unless they do like detonate something at a smaller bomb. So EMP blast is pretty much right there. Solar flares, lightning strikes, man-made effects such as nuclear explosions and non-nuclear. EMP causes electrical to generate metals. So basically, it's not going to fry your batteries. It's going to fry everything electronic circuit board wise. So there's certain ways that you can actually protect it, your car. I mean, this is a whole another presentation I could do. DIY at home Faraday cages to protect your electronics. Metal trash can, seal it up. Make sure even like a small chicken coop like that. The biggest thing is you want one continuous piece of metal touching each other. So like the trash can, make sure all the metal is touching each other, make sure there's nothing interfering. And just like that, you can make them at your house.
So, I don't understand what these are for. You've lost me.
EMP,
What does EMP stand
electric magnetic pulse.
for? What does that
It's basically it's going to fry everything with a circuit board. So, like a solar flare, they always talk about solar flares and all stuff like that. This is what they generate EMPs. So, this, I mean, we could go over. Basically, you can make it out of aluminum foil, some padding, and some more aluminum foil and some more padding. As long as your electronics aren't touching the metal, you're good to go. It's simple to make. They sell Faraday bags. Never used one, but I mean, simple to make. Or if you got the money, just go to EMP Shields. This company makes EMP shields for your cars, your vehicles, your generators, your house, your electronics, and everything. They're actually contracted out by the government. The government uses them on their vehicles. Terry has one on his car. So, car for your house. You got these small little magnetic ferrets that you could put on your wires as well. You could put it on your antennas. But it's very pricey. Do you really need them? No. Things I forgot to... Good things to have. Surgical kit. Because if things get really bad, you're going to have to learn how to take care of yourself and your family or whoever. You might have to do something that you don't want to do. Surgical kit's good to have. Same with right next to it is a dental bag. You're going to have to rely on becoming your own dentist. I actually have a book online it's called Where There's No Dentist that helps you with that. Right there's that disposable staple gun. Right there's a suture kit. Things that you should have. Stock up on vitamins. Don't get paper masks because we all know they don't work. Respirator mask, because you never know if somebody starts a fire, there's a riot and all that stuff, all that smoke. You want something, at the least, minimum, a bandana. We have these 100-hour candles from Ready Hour. And old school people know what that is down there. P38 can opener. In case you need a can opener when you're out in the field, bushcrafting, or survival situation if you don't have a can opener. These large needles, you should always have a sewing kit on you no matter what. Canvas needles are good to have in case you got to sew up your tarp, your sleeping bag, or anything else with thick material. And say the grid went down and you're out of propane, stock up on firewood, charcoal grill, and have good basically cookware sets that you can cook over an open fire. Because you're not going to take a cheap ceramic Tefal pan from Walmart and put it over an open fire. That's just disgusting. So cast iron works great. Titanium and stainless steel are the only other two I'd go with because they are rated for open fire cooking. So campfire cooking, if you want to call it that way, are good things to have. And along with these books up here, here's some extra books. Right there's Where There's No Dentist. You got the Casualty Care and Wound Treatment, Emergency War Surgery book. Some other books that'd be good to know since you're in the Midwest. Midwest medicinal plants, Midwest foraging, booby traps. That's a whole nother class. Homesteading. Everybody should know how to tie knots, certain kind of knots that you need. You know, books on knots, pioneering skills, and like we talked about, I've never been hunting, so I don't know how to field dress a deer or anything like that. It's something I need to learn. Pocket guide to field dressing animals, what you catch and trap and all that. I know, but they're so cute. I don't want to shoot them. I'll eat them, but I won't shoot them. So, and that is it for my presentation. I'll be here for a while longer. If you guys have any questions, you guys can come up and talk to me. I can show you guys some more stuff.
Hey, can we give him a hand? Real quick, we've got all the handouts in the front, so we only have 25 copies, so if you're a couple, if you can just take one. But real fast, I know we're just a little bit over time. I want to do 5 minutes of Q&A before we dismiss. So does anybody have any questions? I'm going to start with my wife.
Real quick.
Thank you so much for today. It's fantastic.
How do we pull up the internet on this thing?
Just Chrome. Go to Chrome. Here, I got you. Just go ahead.
It's a Mac. I mean,
the
normal
IT
people use
comment.
Windows, but
I have a question about if you can't, for some reason, grab your grab bag in its entirety, but maybe you could grab some items out of it. What would be, if you're carrying them in your hands, your top picks of things to grab?
top things I would grab. If it's short quick trip, less than 24 hours, I'm grabbing a water filter, my gun, and a flashlight, and may deal with that. I mean, most of that stuff I carry on me anyways, but out of the bag, probably a water filter, maybe a tarp. I mean, it's one of those things, situation dictates, but knowing me, it'd probably be jumping out of the car and just whatever I grab is coming with me, so. But security, water, shelter, and food be pretty much in that order that I'd grab.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Oh, there it is.
And you got one more? Oh, yes. Okay. 1 second, please. Just so everyone can hear online.
When you were talking about radio communications, I noticed you didn't say anything about a CB. Are those still used, or are they obsolete? Or
They're still used. You could use them in the GMRS form as well. A lot of truckers actually use. I don't have it here, but the GMRS, the middle radio. A lot of trucking companies are actually using those because a lot of them would like to go to channel 19, which is all of the highway. But CBs can be used. I mean, it's whatever type of CBs are pretty much. They're pretty much. I think they fall about in the realm of GMRSs.
Anyone else? Anyone else? I think he's got one more thing, and then we'll dismiss. And while he's pulling that up, there was someone that came up to me, and they had mentioned, what about doing a class on finances? What do we do with those that have money? And, by no means do we have all the answers, but I do know some few people that I'm going to see if we can put together a class that what can we do with our money? And again, anything here would just be advice. That's it. We're not financial consultants. But right now there is a lot of talk about, the cash I do have, where is it best suited from a biblical perspective? Did you have something, Karen? Yeah.
Yeah, just went out of my lovely little brain. Can we have somewhere along the line a basic CPR first aid class? A lot of people don't even know the basics, and sometimes that's all you need to get somebody going again. We don't need all the paraphernalia with it. Sure. But if they just got the basics to know what to do and not do, especially to know what not to do.
Yeah, I think that's really neat, and I think right before he shows this last thing, this is the start, as I mentioned when we started. And I know if we are going to be hosting, I think at some point in the future, a Zoom class, right? Mm-hmm. And just more of a some type of group. This presentation, we will have a link on. This is already on YouTube and Facebook. We'll have a link to the presentation. And then in that, we're going to create a link where you could sign up to be a part of a network. That's it. And so if we get your email address, we'll be able to send out that if there's a Zoom, we may not always be able to meet here. But this is something that I want to do regularly that covers different topics. So I truly believe that this is a good start, and that's a great class that we should focus on as well. Ed, what do you got, the last thing?
This is just going to be, if this thing would cooperate with me. I swear I know my alphabet. So this is a nuclear war map. Basically, this is a scenario, but this is also kind of tells you all the hard targets in our area. We're almost there. We're in New Jersey, New Mexico. Okay. There we go. So basically, it tells you pretty much the targets. It gives you the actual grid coordinates and what type of nuclear that would actually hit you with, like an air burst, a ground burst, and all that stuff. It's going to be very hard for a ground burst, honestly, coming in from that far away from a foreign country without getting shot down. So air burst would be most likely, but as you can see, right Petersen has quite a few that would be targeted, along with like our capital, like Columbus, or like city government and all that stuff. Let's see, go back to this. No, we don't want Dallas. There's Dayton, Texas. Oh. See, it gives like different rated explosions, 7 kilotons, 500 kilotons, and all that stuff. It has a list of all the nuclears that's ever made by any country. Let's see. That would be the initial blast. Would be a small area, radiation, and this would be all your fallout in those large circles. That's for a 500 kiloton. Say something smaller like a 300 kiloton. It'd be in that whole area. Yeah. So the middle would be 3.7 miles would be 100% fatalities. 2.93 miles outside the circle would be injuries and fatalities. 8.84 would be extensive injuries and fatalities. And then after that, you'll start to have debris and fallout, which most of the maps show going kind of towards Tip City and Arcanum area. But there's, try to go back. Yeah, try looking at this while your boss walks up behind you at work. Yeah, large, there we go. So this is what the United States would look like. Minutes, targets, warheads. This is what it would look like if we actually had a nuclear attack. And then we zoom in. All those ovals are which way the fallout would be falling.
Is that just predominant wind patterns?
Yeah, predominant wind pattern. So, like up there in Ohio, you see how it's blowing towards kind of Cleveland direction. And the bigger hits are bigger sized warheads. So that's pretty much.
Why did you pick a 500 kiloton for Dayton? Would that be?
It was defaulted.
What's that?
It was defaulted to that one.
Defaulted.
Yeah. So like if we actually, let me pull it in here to Ohio. It will show us it shows us where it's hit and the fallout. And actually, when you touch on it, it'll tell you fallout zone, radiation. There's a function before, I'm trying to find it. It would tell you like what kind of munition.
30 miles, but
Yeah.
predominantly in the north
Yeah.
What's the deep red indicative of?
Deep red is pretty much you're not going to survive. Pretty much you're going to see that flash of light and then you're gone. So, I mean, this is hypothetical too, but I mean, do I think that many warheads would launch off at once? I don't think so. But yeah, I mean, most of it would be targeted at Wright-Patterson. For all of us that live in Huber Heights. Yeah. So, I mean, this is just hypothetical and all stuff. I mean, do I think that like a full-scale nuclear launch would happen? I think between our anti-missile capabilities and all that stuff, a lot of them would be shot down. I mean, you shoot at us, then you got to shoot at UK, then you're going to start shooting at allies. And, I mean, at that point, the biggest threat I think we would have is what they call a dirty bomb. Or, you know, truck bombs, backpack bombs with small, you know, uranium kind of detonation. I think those are more prominent to happen than anything else. So.